what happens with live events, conferences. Well, right, we need value for money here, so we need to fill the day.
Yeah.
So actually what happens is that you have an agenda that has sessions that are just too long. Even though they're sitting in a room watching a screen, their attention spans are just shorter.
Yeah, completely.
So here we are. We are in our first podcast. I've already done a little piece with Matt earlier today for our industry peers, but we're hoping that this topic of content will be more suited to anybody who is responsible for organising an event, whether you're client side or not. If it's just an internal meeting, then hopefully some of this kind of content will be more beneficial to you. So, Matt, do you want to say a couple of words about who you are?
Yeah. So I work for PSP. We are kind of primarily AV rental, and I kind of work on the creative content side of stuff, kind of look after the studio and that sort of thing.
From an organiser's point of view, some of the key criteria is always inevitably to do with engagement, because ultimately that's why you do an event, right? You're doing an event to engage your audience. You're disseminating some information, you've got something to launch, you've got something to say, you need to hold their attention. Hopefully I'm holding yours. And the kind of brief that inevitably I get will be, we want high engagement, but how that tends to be measured, or how the client asks us to measure that, will tend to be focused far more around interactive features.
Yes. Yeah.
What do you make of that?
I think they think of engagement differently to how we think of engagement. I think they think of engagement of getting people involved, getting people doing things, voting, doing buttons and emoticons and whatever. Where in reality, engagement it's holding someone's attention. It's putting on a cool speaker. It's making people watch it, understand it, remember it, and want to talk about it.
And react to it, possibly galvanise them into some sort of action if it's that kind of message.
Whereas I think the whole engagement interactivity thing gets confused.
Agreed. I sort of feel as though there's kind of two sides of that one word, and two ways that it tends to be described with virtual events. So if you were to go to your HR department, I think if you ask them about engagement, they'd talk to you about their employee survey and whether their employees are engaged or not. And that would have nothing to do with whether they'd pressed a button on anything. But engagement is about whether they're not passive, they don't just turn up to work and go home at the end of the day. So that to me, or that to HR, would be engagement, right? But then you have anything that is online. You have YouTube. Right? Engage. So, and you have your like buttons, and you have your comments section, and I feel as though those two sets of types of engagement have kind of been crossed over, and because of the medium in virtual events, the social media and gameplay style of engagement has overtaken actually what as a corporate brief you probably want it to be. Do you think that's fair?
Yeah, definitely. I think you kind of associate it more with your social medias because it's fast, it's in your face, you can get through it quickly, whereas your corporate stuff is it's harder to get engagement flat out because you are making longer videos and delivering information that you want people to hear and to take in. But the reality is you've only got a short attention span to deal with.
I feel as though virtual events now need to be looking far more to social content and the short attention spans. If we're dealing anything in video now, I feel as though that's where we need to be taking our cues from, rather than
definitely
transferring an hour-long event into a video conference. It's a different kettle of fish, isn't it?
Short, sharp, interesting, to the point. You've just got to capture that. You've got to capture people's attention, keep it, and then, like you say, act positively on it. Or
so how And I don't have the answer to this.
No.
And I know this is going to sound like I'm going to put you on the spot, and I'm not. This is a conversation point for both of us. But how do we measure whether the audiences have been engaged? But, say you only do an hour's conference, right?
Yeah.
Or you've got a whole series of them. How do you know if they've been engaged? What are the measurements, what are the metrics that we could put in place that will measure if they really have been engaged in the truest sense, not whether they went, like that, and then immediately forgot it? Because that doesn't, we just said that doesn't necessarily equate to engagement with the content. They were engaged at that split second, at that moment when they hit clap or they hit like.
Yeah.
So what do we do? I mean, I don't know. Maybe we need to have more conversations with the HR department and understand.
It's getting a deeper understanding. Yeah, it's getting a deeper understanding of what they want to know and how to deliver it, how you're gonna deliver that information so they take it in. Essentially, I think reactions and likes and thumbs up and stuff. In reality, if you think about it, you scroll through Instagram or TikTok and you don't really watch it. But if it's someone you like, you'll hit like anyway.
Yeah. Even if you don't watch anymore,
even if you don't watch it, you watch it.
Oh yeah, cool. I like that. Yeah.
Like, so there's no.
You totally do that with my content. Don't you?
No, not at all. But there's no. I don't have the answer. There's no way of knowing if you have, really imparted that information.
Or on the other hand, are we actually making these briefs, or clients overthinking these briefs?
Big time.
And actually. As long as we are focused on creating great content together, our job is to produce it for you, to turn the messages that you want to get across into engaging content. So, but are the engagement metrics that are being focused on, is that being overcomplicated? And actually,
a little bit.
Are the likes and the thumbs up and the comments and those interactive features, is that enough? Is that enough to say that was interesting content?
Yeah, I think so.
Because you could totally argue that from the social media point of view, like we just said. Like, if I go to my YouTube metrics and see how many not subscribers I don't have, and how many people haven't commented, but those would be deemed as the engagement metrics, right? Yes, you've got reach to look at and all of those other factors, but maybe there is something in that as well. Maybe that is how we measure engagement for this type of event, for this type of content.
I don't think there is any other way.
On your platform, or on any platforms that you've used, have you got ability to see how long a particular IP address or something has watched a session, for example?
Yeah, I think some of the data shows how long they watch that session for, and you can see kind of when they're on and when they're off,
and when they drop off, and that sort of thing. Because that
sort of thing.
Again, what I'm learning in social,
or how long they've watched for, or if you've put, if it's an hour long and they've watched for 20 minutes, or you can see that. And I know some platforms out there go even more detailed, I think.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's so difficult, I think, to really know if you've engaged. I think, and there's a lot of pressure put on it, especially in the virtual world, where I think if you think about it as a live event as well,
there wouldn't be nearly as much pressure. Just because you've got a captive audience doesn't mean sitting them in a darkened room for an hour and a half to watch a keynote speech. It's engaging.
Yeah, and you can almost guarantee kind of the
how many times have you
sat
in a darkened conference room, and because we're at the back of the room, we can see what's happening and you can see all the little screens lit up, can't you?
But you're not measuring. There's people not measuring engagement on that.
No.
So why are you measuring engagement when you're doing it virtually?
That's so true. That is so true.
And there's so much emphasis put on. Oh, did they fill the form in? Did they who pressed thumbs up? Who did this? Who did that? Have you got all the metrics?
Yeah.
Would you put 500 people in a room? Are you doing that on the way out the door?
No.
You're not doing it on the way out the door.
You might get a feedback form.
You're assuming.
And then even if you do a feedback form, how many people bother to fill that in?
You're assuming that because they're in the room and it's dark and there's one person up the front speaking, that they're listening.
Yeah. I think we've got to treat it as a different medium, right? We've got to treat it differently rather than trying to skew the way we might have measured things before or what. I don't know. I don't know the answers. I don't know. I can't give you the answers.
I mean, if you're assuming that they've listened in a conference room, why aren't you assuming they're listening when you've delivered it virtually?
What happens with live events, conferences, where you've got a big stage set and you've hired the venue and you've got 350 people all piling in. They've all taken the day off work and they've all travelled to whatever location you're setting this up in. You've spent a lot of money on the setting stage and a lot of money on putting them up because, you know, they've come from a long way away and so they're going to need an overnight stay. All of those factors, and you go, well, right, we need value for money here. So we need to fill the day.
Yeah.
We need to fill an agenda for a day. So actually what happens, I think, in a lot of cases, shoot me down, is that you have an agenda that has sessions that are just too long.
Yes.
And actually, really, if what we're talking about is the reason why you're getting people together is for networking opportunities, let them network.
Let them network.
So have much longer breaks and much shorter pieces of content, because I still think that even though they're sitting in a room watching a screen, their attention spans are just shorter.
Yeah, completely.
So I'm going backwards and forwards here, and I have no real answers. On one hand, I sort of think virtual is completely different, and on the other hand, I'm thinking, well, actually, maybe real life events, IRL events, need to be starting to take some cues from what we're starting to do better in
definitely.
virtual,
Definitely.
which is making shorter sessions that are more engaging.
Yeah, it's keeping that attention as well. I think you've got a 3-minute window of people's attention spans. If you can keep them interested for 3 minutes by changing a camera angle, by changing a slide, by bringing someone on stage, by talking to someone different,
changing the medium, playing a
showing
video
them
piece,
something,
little sound effect, something.
If you can keep them in a 3-minute window throughout session, then you're onto a winner. Whereas if it's me talking to a camera for 3 minutes, 6 minutes,
I love you, Matt, but I might be a bit dull.
You turn to radio. You're going to flick off it. You're going to go somewhere else.
It's hard. It is really hard, and we don't have the answers, and every audience is different as well. But, you know, having said all of that, also, do another 180 on everything I've just said, I do think that interactive features have their place, and I think they do have some advantages, and they do have a reason to be there in certain applications. And I also think we can push them a lot harder than we do. I think we're so limited by what the platform can offer, and everybody got like wrapped up in platform features and bells and whistles.
What can it do? What can it do?
Exactly. Like, oh, has it got this feature? Has it got that feature?
How can we elbow that into our conference?
I looked a lot at like kind of platforms like Twitch. Now, I'm not a gamer by any stretch of the imagination. My other half is, and I've poo-pooed it for years and not really taken much notice and never really understood the scroll of stuff that goes up the side as they're all playing the games. But actually, there's community aspect. They feel safe to do that. Which is what, and you've got to have a massive audience to get that long stream. I think the expectation of corporate briefs is that if you've got 400 people watching, then you'll get lots and lots of content. You've got to have thousands and thousands to see strings of comments like that. But the key things that I like about what the gamers do is on Twitch, you have a facility that uses like points. You can earn points for watching channels, right? Channel points. You see, I know. And then you can spend them by using different things on different people's streams. So they set things up at their back end in OBS, in the facility that they use to stream what they are doing.
Right.
And it can be activated like via a chat word. So they might go on fire or something, and then because all their lights and everything in their room that they're playing the game in is all connected, the system will automatically send all their lights. Things like that. So for me, I think there are far more interesting opportunities that are like that than just a like or a comment, which is kind of base level. Like that's kind of what you expect. I mean, how many of you have used things like If This Then That or Zapier or things like that where you can connect, or even just Alexa? That's all right, she's switched off. Or even just things like Alexa, where you can use a voice command to activate something, switch all the lights on in your house, right? It's the same principle. And that, to me, is where some really interesting stuff could happen on the interactivity front. It will engage people to a certain extent. It's not engagement in the way that I think we should be measuring the content. But it's an interesting
slide on it, isn't it? It's interactivity to keep people engaged,
keep people interested, keep people watching, and hopefully that means that they will take on board what you want to say. the last and probably key thing that everybody always wants to do on all events, unless they have a team who don't want to answer them, is Q&A, right? I've seen lots fail, but I have seen them work.
Yeah.
So, yeah. So I saw this little, I think it might have been like an advert for something. I don't know. It was something on social media. So anyway, and the video was a guy who's gone on holiday. He's gone on his little package holiday, stressed out with work. And he arrives at the poolside on his all-inclusive, and the entertainment comes up to him and tries to get him to join in. And go away. But by day 14...
Yeah, he's all over it.
He's all over it. And it just made me go, oh my God, that's exactly what it is. Yeah. You need people to kind of settle into it. You need to watch almost other people get involved.
Yeah, like drip feed it.
Exactly. So when I've seen Q&As work is when you've given people a long period of time to settle in and they have seen other people engage first. So if it's a Q&A with the senior leadership team, are there other points throughout the agenda where you've been able to have the CEO asked difficult questions by other members of the team? You know, that's going to create a sense of security for anybody else. Yeah. And also give people a long time to ask questions. If you you say to them at the start of a 45-minute session, well, we're going to have a question and answer, and you've got 45 minutes to get your questions in, and then we'll answer them. Or even worse, get to the end and go, any questions? Yeah. You're not going to get any. Yeah, you're just not.
Give people time to think about it as well.
Yeah.
It's what they're going to ask. I won't ask it because someone else will ask it. It doesn't necessarily happen. Whereas if you give them a break to go and have a coffee and speak to someone and say, I was going to ask this. And they go, that's a good question. You go back in with a little bit more confidence and go, I'm just going to ask that question.
Exactly.
Now. And then it's there for the end of the day.
So...
at the end, you know, any questions, just to hit them with any questions at the end of the day.
And then there's just that awkward pause, and it's just uncomfortable for everyone. It's uncomfortable for people watching. It's uncomfortable for the person sitting in front of the camera.
Especially like in real life, yes. On virtually, you just have dead air. And then you roll to a bumper and finish the conference. You're like, well, do we cut that out?
Here's another interactive feature thing. So that's Q&As. Like, give them an opportunity to like build up the confidence to ask questions. Yeah. But then you've also got polling. Yeah. I have a thing about polling. Like, everybody goes, oh, there's this. We've got a platform feature. We can do a poll. You got to think about what you're going to poll people on properly, not just, well, we think we know what everybody's going to say, and we'll confirm this, and then we'll ask everybody what it is. Everybody responds. There's the awkward pause when they don't know what to say whilst the vote is happening. Yeah. And then there's the results come up, and then they go, oh, that's interesting. And then they just move on, and there's no real...
On a scale of 1 to 5, how interested were you?
Yeah, exactly.
And you go, it means nothing. That question means nothing to anybody.
For me, and it means 3 or 4 times the amount of work. If you're going to poll somebody, you've then got to have a script prepared for where does the conversation now go? Where's that going to take my content? If we don't get the result we're expecting, and if you are going to get the result you're expecting, kind of what's the point in the poll in the first place? You know that answer already. So in short, I'd say don't just use the features because they're there. Yeah. Just make good content in the first place. Yeah. I hope this is good content, by the way. Well, have you seen anything else? Like, I've talked about the gamers type interactivity. Have you seen anything else that works? Or is engagement for you, is it that great speaker?
It's that great speaker. Obviously, over the last 2 years, 2.5 years, whatever it's been, we have edited an insane amount of, a 45-minute session of someone talking to camera with a slide there. Same, virtually from events, and it's not engaging. It's that speaker that visually interesting, not just someone sat on a green screen or with the team's background on where you can see
and that weird kind of fuzzy blended edge, and they lose ears and things.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I think short, sharp, interesting. Just visually looks great. I think that for me is enough. I don't think you need a 45-minute session.
I'd go one step further. I would say all of those factors, that is producing it. That's what we do. Yeah. Is help people make those things look better. But So I was telling you earlier, so I'm working on a test, and keep your eyes peeled on this. So I am producing a case study, but not in the typical way that you would expect to see a case study, right? So this case study is not going to be, here's the brief, this is what we did, lots of kind of cool cutaways, like show reel style, and some key facts, this many people engaged, this is how much the budget was, and these were the results type. That would be a typical case study for the sort of things that we do. No, I'm going to try and practice what I preach. God, I hope it works now. I'm saying it out loud. So I've written a script of this case study, and I've written it like a story. So I introduce you to the client, and we go on a journey with them on the highs and lows of the process to arrive at the result. And I will hope that is going to be a more engaging way to present a case study.
Definitely a more interesting way.
Yeah, I mean, I've seen other people do. I'm not going to lie. I'm copying somebody else's format that I thought worked so well, and then it occurred to me that it's actually a case study. It's not. It's not the norm for that. So I do think storytelling plays a big part, and things that you don't think you can tell a story on, you can tell a story on. It's still a story.
Yeah.
Even if it's fact driven, there are still highs and lows and a journey that something took on, whether it's a case study, whether it's an engineering case study or a case study about event. There's a process that happened, and you can tell a story about that process.
No,
so
definitely.
I'm experimenting with that and seeing if I can kind of illustrate a point with this. And
yeah, no, that'd be good.
So
yeah.
Got to watch it now.
Yeah.
The video will be here. Go and click on this now.
Yeah.